Good time of day to all of you, my chess friends. This is Grandmaster Yermolinsky. Welcome back. My bi-weekly show here on the Internet Chess Club, titled Russian Schoolboy Live. And as you probably saw on the welcome screen, the subtitle is Searching for Russian Schoolboys. Well, it does seem this way, that you gotta start searching for them. Well, the wealth of talent doesn't seem to be there anymore. The Russians, they're really losing their leading positions in the chess world. It's been God knows how long since they won Chess Olympiad. Well, obviously citing numerous problems, team chemistry and this and that, but okay, well, it may cause you to have one or two bad tournaments, but I mean, it's been longer than that. Next, individual world championship. Where are they? Carlsen plays Anand. Anand played Topalov. Okay. Candidates tournament. As we speak now, who do we have for the candidates? We have Anand. We have Caruana and Nakamura from Grand Prix series. We have, by rating, we're going to have Topalov and Giri. That's already 5. I mean, okay. Suppose we need to look for a new talent, and I think that's what they need to do. And I obviously have no connection to modern chess in Russia, none whatsoever. But still, I mean, this thing is dear to my heart. Well, whichever way you look at this, I mean, maybe I'm gloating, or maybe I'm genuinely sad. It doesn't really matter, like the fact is that I want to address this issue. It's up to you to figure it out, how I feel about this. So, I took my time to study the games of the Russian Higher League Championship. Now, the terminology there is absolutely confusing, and I think it goes back to Soviet times. Yeah, Premier League. Okay, so that's supposed to be the main event. Higher League, strange name, right? Probably mistranslated. But okay, they didn't ask me. None of my business. But anyway, it's nothing but a qualifying tournament. It's not really an open kind of event. Well, you have to qualify there some way, one way or another. I'm not sure how. But in the end, like just a bunch of pretty decent players. They play a Swiss tournament to determine 5 players to go through and play in this year's edition of the Premier League. Alright, so let me show you the winners. And the winners are... Well, they don't look very old, do they? Okay, the man in the white shirt, young man, top left. That's Artemiev. Okay, the top right, giving his opponent a stare, is Dubov. Left to right on the bottom we have Hayrulin. Not really a youngster, he's been around already for some time, probably in his late 20s. Then in the middle, my favorite player of all new generation of Russian players, Ivan Bukovshin. Obviously, I should just love the guy with first name Ivan. And I'm gonna make a show. I'm gonna make a special edition of my regular pre-recorded video, whatever Russian Schoolboy knows, solely dedicated to the games of Ivan Bukovshin, bottom middle. Okay, and then bottom right, well, the old man. No, I cannot call him granddaddy, but no, maybe an uncle already. That would be Matilov. Matilov Actually, I played him. Oh boy. 10 years ago, I played him in the Airfloat Open. He's probably in his mid-30s. He's been a coach of the Russian Olympic team for some time already. When do we get to play Banter Blitz with me? I am not scheduled. I don't know. You should, by popular demand, write to ICC Brest administrators and tell them we wanna beat Yermo in Banter Blitz because you guys done very well against me. I'll be happy to do this, but I'm not the one who schedules those things. Okay, so let's go to chess games. Now, on purpose, I didn't really choose games of the winners of the tournament. I thought, that would require a little bit more time. What we're gonna talk about, just some snapshots and see what it feels like. Actually, this one is from round 2. We have Kabalia versus Fedoseev. A little bit about these two players. I start with Kabalia. He is probably Matelov's age, so we're talking mid-30s. Always been kind of a second-tier player. I mean, capable, obviously. Even now, he's rated 26-23. Is probably has been higher, but not sure by how much. He also started working as a trainer. I think worked with Kramnik. Knowledgeable player, of course. And currently, I think he's employed by Russian Chess Federation as their junior team coach. His opponent, oh well, it's very interesting. Fedoseev, along with Artemiev, and now I believe Bukavshin, the newest generation. They're all still in their teens, I believe, and higher rated and very promising players. I believe Fedoseev has to be, okay, I just checked, 26-74. Now, Fedoseev, right now as we speak, is in China, playing in the traditional Russia-China match. That match uses the Schwenningen system, meaning like that the floating opponents kind of, so you have 5 players on your side and 5 players on the side of your opponent, and well, every and each of you guys will play each of the opponent's players once. So it's a 5-rounder kind of thing, and Fedoseev so far is struggling. He lost 2 games. Possibly his problems began at the tournament, or the higher league tournament. Watch this game from round 2. Okay. Well, very well schooled, of course, playing the Najdorf. Well, there's a lot of theory over there, and we'll see. Now this indicates the English attack, and e5 is probably the most popular response. At least Anand plays like this, and also Vashyeva Graf, Nakamura. Topalov kind of had a tendency of playing e6, but most players, practitioners of the Najdorf, they prefer e5. And now in this position, normally white plays f3, right? So that's part of this English attack. And then, of course, they castle, and then they go g4. Many games of Anand. Anand is like world's #1 expert. He had fantastic record he has on both sides of this. But also Mickey Adams and Nigel Short, that's why we call it the English attack. There are many very sharp theoretical variations, I'm sure. I'm sure if you play this opening, you're familiar with some of them, and possibly better than I am. Oh, a question. Is it true that ice hockey and biathlon not as important in Russia as 10 or 25 years ago? Russia has less success now in hockey and biathlon. I don't know about biathlon, but I mean it's an attractive sport, and I actually watched it, spectated it a few times, but I mean, mainly I like being outside, kind of, and then, there's snow and stuff. But anyway, but it was fun to watch. Hockey, I'm not sure you are correct. Well, the success or the lack of those from the national team and this World Championships is not really very important. We cannot say that hockey was not popular in Russia and Canada, no, in US and Canada, when the Russians were winning every hockey championship, and occasionally the Czechs would get one. I mean, the league, professional National Hockey League, was here, and people were making a lot of money, and I guess, well, it's popular, probably. And it's still popular. It has a TV contract. Now, same thing goes now for hockey in Russia. They have their Continental Hockey League. It's actually comparable thing to the National Hockey League. It has a lot of teams, the teams from Europe, not only from the former Soviet Union. And they employ a lot of foreign players, legionnaires, whatever. And I mean, so I wouldn't say that hockey is not popular in Russia. So anyway, but this F3 thing currently is answered by H5, That's what Topalov actually did, and some others. There are some other players. Oh, another English player, Matthew Sadler. Well, he was great on the black side of this H5. So now they're looking for new ways of playing this, and Kabale plays not a novelty, but still a move that is kind of like fighting for respectability, is F4. There is nothing really unusual about pawn going to F4, but most of the time in the old days, Karpov days, White would do it with the king castling short. Now F4 is played in this position, and here is what we have. He played knight G4. Alright. Now, I'll mention this, okay? Let me go back 2 moves. Actually, in this position, Nepomniachtchi and some other experts, they prefer to play knight D7. I'll try to figure out why. So after castles, they put the bishop here. And now if white goes F4, it's a theoretical position. Then black has this move. Watch out, the problem on this diagonal. If white plays the move F5, you'll see it later in the game. And now he loses. Because he's in this situation when he can never capture this knight because of the pin. And therefore, he's gonna lose the game. He's gonna lose at least the exchange. He already lost the pawn. Alright, so therefore, in this situation, white answers with G3. Now, this is a known position in theory, but it's still G3 doesn't seem like the kind of move white really needs in this setup. So therefore, some people believe that knight D7 is more accurate, but after bishop E7, when he played knight G4, now Kabale played F5. Well, I will venture a guess here. And then I will answer this thing about hockey. I will venture a guess about this. Obviously, Fedoseev, as many young players of today, they have to study a lot of stuff. Well, we didn't have to. We didn't have to because we didn't... nobody had an opportunity. Nobody had the information, the databases. I mean, of course, we had chess books and periodicals, but they were slow, and obviously, still, the amount of this information you need to absorb was way less. So other things were considered more important. But these days, I mean, year 2674, you have to know everything. Otherwise you're just gonna walk into some prepared line from your lower rated opponent, and it's gonna be a disaster, losing rating points. So therefore, guys like Fedoseev, they have to sit there and study. All computers, all memorizing literally thousands of variations and all that, and simply didn't have enough time to put it through his own head. When you play, actually, get an experience of playing an actual game with this. Then usually it gives you a chance to kind of structure and organize everything. Otherwise, those variations, they begin to look the same, and if you don't have first-hand experience, you may just confuse some variations. I think that's what happened to Fedosiev. Now, I'm answering this. Yeah, behavior at the last World Championship. Yeah, there was something, I don't really know, but I've heard about this. I don't know, well, what caused that, if they had some kind of, was that kind of like they considered under protest, what they were protesting about. Maybe some calls went against them, but anyway, that's not the way to do it, and this is really ridiculous, and particularly, I mean, that's your fellow hockey players. You may end up, in the same team with them, and you kind of disrespected them, I mean the Canadian players, by skating away, now who needs you, in the National Hockey League. Yeah, that was a bad episode. Well, I don't know if it was really the fault of the players or maybe the coach. Usually the players do what the coaches tell them to do. But it's a sad chapter, I agree with you. So anyway, yeah, there is a different line that begins with the move E takes F4. But then, of course, you surrender the D4 square, so the white knight will return. But anyway, maybe it's more reliable. I'm not sure. I'm really no expert on this. But anyway, let's see what's happening here. And now bishop takes b3. Well, now, the way I was brought up, to understand the Sicilian defense, you never do this. You almost never capture on b3. Even when the white pawn is already on a4. Recently, there was a very interesting game that Caruana won on the white side of this. And Caruana usually doesn't do very well against the the Najdorf. But he did well. Also, bishop takes b3 was played. I mean, it helps white tremendously in many ways. Look at the pawn structure. Now the rook is open there. Black cannot even play b5, because the a6 pawn would be pinned. Now that c4 square is for the white bishop and all the white squares. All the same, when I looked in the alternatives, yes, this has been played. Actually, Kabalia himself had a game like this. I think it's in white's favor. But castles, knight d7, bishop e2, there, bishop e3. Okay, I think white has kind of a normal opening advantage, put it this way. And now I want to debate a little bit with you guys. Is it good for white to have the king on the queen side in this position? Usually the king would be on g1. I wonder what do you think about that? Because that's the only unusual thing about the setup there. Otherwise, it's kind of a standard position. Anybody cares to offer their opinion? Well, I guess you guys not sure. I hope you'll be more interested in answering my next question, whatever it might be. So I will offer my own opinion on this. I think it's more interesting for white to have the king on the queen side. I think it kind of frees up his hand to do g4, g5 without worrying about the king, and really need to do this attack. And also I think that black, the way that bishop is on the c-file, black really has absolutely nothing going against the white king there. So I think white has more potential. So, but I would say that's kind of a normal opening advantage. Yet Fedoseev didn't want it. Now I'm thinking, round 2 of this tournament, obviously too early to burn your bridges. Yeah, okay, that's what I thought, finally. Yeah, T0M0ST, Thomas. Maybe Fedoseev felt that he wouldn't get any winning chances over there. Now, that is impatient. No, obviously, he's a young player. It's only round 2, and important is to get going in the tournament and draw with the black pieces against a decent player, and actually your own coach there would be a good result in the junior team. Maybe that teacher-pupil thing, somehow affected. But anyway, surprised with this. We took there. Okay, now we have the d5 square versus the d4 square. And yeah, he could have played this one. I just have a feeling that the knight on d4 is not going to be equal to the knight on d5. Just for one simple reason, which you will tell me as I move along. I don't know if this does anything. Nah, queen f2. Of course, in this situation, with that bishop on g5, white doesn't get to castle this way. But maybe now he can castle short, because he has the d5 square. And he can actually play on the queen side. And you guys yet to tell me why the knight on d4 is not equal to the knight on d5. Immune, that's correct. c3 will be played sooner or later, once white takes care of the pawn on b3. And this pawn mass after c3 and b4 somehow, it's very good. It takes away the dark squares, and it kind of at some moment you can push b5. White probably is not going to be playing for h4, g4 here, anyway, because now it's opposite cover bishops, right? And it's hard to break through this blockade on the dark squares. But castle's short, some advantage to white. With that in mind, what do you make of this move? Pardon me, I mean, I wasn't gonna go g4. c3, okay. Now, artificial, right? Well, for a young player now searching for this Russian schoolboys, it's important to be what they call the natural, right? And it's difficult to do. It's easier to do in the beginning when there is no pressure and you're an unknown player and you just play chess. I mean, I noticed in my students, they start pressing at some moment. It's almost inevitable. You have a guy, doing well and gaining a couple of hundred rating points, and once he gets over 2300, you see they start pressing. And they don't know how to do it, because before that, they never really dealt with this problem. Like how to force things to happen on the board. They were just going with the flow. Important is to kind of keep it, So keep your ambition in check and let things develop naturally. I think one thing that I would give credit to the former Russian player. Who's the former Russian player who's now in top 10 in the world? Okay, you give me this guy. Old-timer will tell me. Among the top 10 players in the world now, there is a player who used to represent Russia and does not anymore. Gelfand is not a top 10, and besides, Gelfand never represented Russia. He represented the Soviet Union. In top 10? How many? You say lots? Currently, right now, who's top 10 in the world? Start from Magnus Carlsen. And, okay, so who we have now? Topalov, Anand, Caruana, Nakamura, that's number 5. Who's number 6? Topalov? No, Topalov is from Bulgaria. Never even part of the Soviet Union, and let alone Russia. Who is that? Well, Kramnik lives in Paris, but no, he still plays for Russia. I mean, Anand's been living in Spain for God knows how long, same as Topalov. Giri takes the cake. Anish Giri. Anish Giri. Thank you very, very much. Anish Giri was born in Russia, and he started playing chess there, and he lived there until he was like, 14 or 15. His mother is Russian, his father is Nepalese. And Anish Giri with his mother, well, they moved to Holland, and he's now a Dutch citizen, now plays for Holland, and, well, but he used to play for Russia. No, Giri, no. And Grishuk is still in Russia. And Aronian was never Russian, so it's Armenian. No, the answer is Anish Giri. Alright, so, speaking of Giri, the reason that I thought of them, because Giri elevated his game dramatically. And Giri now is firmly entrenched there as like number 6 in the world. He's ahead of Kramnik and Wesley So, and Levon Aronian fell off the cliff, and Alexander Grishuk. And Anish Giri is, if everything goes okay, he's simply gonna grab that second second spot in the candidates by rating after Topalov. No, you didn't miss much. 14 moves of the beginning and little discussions. Obviously he played in Russia. No, he didn't learn to play chess in Holland, right? Old timer, you know that. I mean, he played in junior tournaments, and he was a decent player, a talent, one of the best talents they had. And, well, it's okay. So I'm looking at King of 8, right? It's anything but natural. I mean, what is Black doing? Keeping the rook on h8 as the mysterious rook. Remember Nimzovich, the rook that sits there on an open file, anticipating this file eventually to be open. Really? Okay. Now, this kind of a cold shower now. Alright, so White is not interested in this g4 and whatever. He just wants to play the endgame, play on the queen side. Yeah, the knight over there, you know, then b4. Now the rooks are discoordinated. It's gonna make it more difficult for Black to defend against the attack on the queen side. How is this rook is gonna help? But still, Black had to trade queens. Now, once again, not the kind of move that comes to you naturally. I mean, queen on b8. The punishment was inevitable. It wasn't swift. But no, well, as the queen went over there, now Kabali obviously pushed the pawn forward. Hey, why not? It's already near decisive advantage. If you play g6, maybe you're not gonna get mated, but your king is gonna be stuck on the bank rank, you know, forever, disconnecting your rooks. Same goes for the bishop. Maybe the game would have lasted a little longer, but I doubt it would be very long. He played queen b7. Oh, somebody is trying to use banned words. I have to be careful. Guys, you know, let me... Parents moved to Japan. No, all over the place. I mean, 1% people, jet-setting lifestyle, you know, like, look at Kasparov. I mean, whatever, you know, he has, I don't know, how many passports does Kasparov have? Or how many he would have if he wanted them. I can count at least 5 countries who would immediately issue a passport to Garry Kasparov, and he probably has properties in many different countries. But also Anish, well, probably the same kind of stuff. At least on his way there. I don't know. No, well, yeah, Fedoseev is supposed to be the next one possibility of the next big thing, together with Artemiev, but this game certainly, and it set the whole game wrong way. Look at this. Look at how he was forced to position his pieces. He's already lost. Now, Kabalia, I'm sure he was happy, right? What is better, for the coach to beat his student, right? I mean, that's just the best feeling in the world. You may lose the student, but hey, it's worth it. I always try to beat my students. Yeah, the h5 pawn is about to go. Nothing to... Move along, people! Nothing to see here. Okay, as a journalist, I have to show you the rest of the moves. That's max of desperation, honestly. Punishment. Rook takes. No, I don't know if Fedoseev blundered this mate, but I mean he was totally lost. But usually people don't want to see the mate on the board. I can't assume that he missed Queen A8 mate. It's about as bad a game as you can have, right? At 26-74, Rising Star. Sad. Sad thing is that throughout the whole tournament he was struggling. And I will talk more about Fedoseev. The reason I'm talking about him, because I will have a chance to talk about the winners. Now, let me show you the winners. Circle again. Artemiev, top left. Dubov, top right. Hyrulin, bottom left. Ivan Bukavshin in the middle. And then the experienced Matilov on the bottom right. So these guys qualified for the Premier League. We'll have a chance to talk about them, obviously. I'm gonna make some videos. But now we're coming back. And I mean, I can't have a Russian Schoolboy show without some endgames, right? I can't. Now, here's the endgame. Lichevsky, 25-50 guy, with the black pieces, former star, former young prodigy, Sanan Sugirov. Sanan Sugirov defeated Magnus Carlsen in the chess Olympiad when Russia had, it was in Khanty-Mansiysk, and Russia had like a junior team or Russia 2 or whatever it was, and they got to play Norway, and Sugirov crushed Magnus Carlsen. Obviously, Magnus and chess Olympiads, they somehow don't agree. But nonetheless, I've heard the name of Sugirov for a long time. What happened to him? He's no longer a youngster. What happened to him? Okay, watch this. Oh, he's still... okay, let me double check. What's his rating now? 26-62. Alright, you can say, well, how can you criticize a 26-62 player? What's your rating, Yermo? Yeah, I'm not 26-62. But the thing is, I was. And I was 26-60 when it meant something. Now it means nothing. It meant something that it was top 20 in the world. Pardon me, 26-62 is not top 20 in the world anymore. You can attach any number. Like, I don't know, this thing grows as fast as Dow Jones. Now, same way, do my finances improve when the Dow Jones number goes to 18,000? No, if anything, it gets worse. So same thing with this. I won't read much into this 26-62. Sugirov's main problem, horrible, horrendous endgame play. I don't know what it is. Every time I look up his endgame, he butchers it. Now, with all these coaches and all this, it's a tradition of the Russian school of chess. You gotta be able to play No, okay, not Magnus Carlsen kind of endgame, but a decent kind of endgame. Watch this. Alright, so he has to struggle to make a draw here. He's somewhat worse. But has some activity and he goes to get the pawn on e5. Now white circles around with the knight and tries to attack the b5 pawn. As the result, black has to misplace his rook. But the rook is not going to be trapped, and eventually maybe the rook can return to d5. I don't know. Well, about maybe I'm anglicizing a little bit. Matelyov. Yeah, I don't know. Well, sometimes my tongue like gets a mind of its own, and I just anyway. Sorry about those things. It's very hard to kind of insert kind of the Russian names that are pronounced into your speech when, at least for me, it's hard. I don't know when I speak English, or rather try to speak English. Anyway, so nice move, and he is looking to play knight f4. Okay, h4. Now knight f4 is not good because in this situation, I guess maybe just king f1. Now we grab that. I think the b5 pawn is in real big trouble. Look how this knight is positioned. Seemingly an active piece, but it's far away from everything. It cannot give check, and it cannot protect b5. You know, of course, that when the knight is away from some important square, like diagonally, and there is one square between them, then it takes like forever to circle this knight around. No, you're right, old timer, I'm kinda, but anyway, maybe you should have a special show about the proper pronunciation of Russian names. Then I can try my Nezhmedinov and Nepomнящий and Yermolinsky, and more. Okay, so he didn't do this. Does that? Okay. What can I say about the move g5? Well, black realized that no, he is in a spot of trouble. Immediately overreacted. By the way, this pawn is not under attack yet. You can actually play this move king f8. Knight takes b5, you get a shot. Knight takes b4. Opening up this rook. Now, we can talk a little bit about this endgame. I don't believe that anybody, let alone a 2662 guy, would worry about this endgame, but still deserves some little bit of talk. Now, we have the rook behind the passed pawn, and the black rook's passive. Now, that's something that we were all told never to allow in our games, right? It's different here. First of all, black's not down a pawn. Secondly, as we play these moves, king there, the black king, just right there. I mean, the pawn is not really that remote. When there are less pawns, and suppose it would be like 2 on 2. Okay, there would be extra pawn, I understand, but there would be this kind of a room for white to stretch the black defenses, and now he's stretching nothing. Look what's gonna happen. Rook here, hits the pawn. Do whatever. You wanna do f4, king b5. I mean, before you know it, you may even lose this pawn on b4. I mean, obviously, black was able to do this nice defensive switch. You always have to activate your rook, and if there is an opponent's pawn to stop, do it with the king. The king also happens to be attacking it, ties up the opponent's rook. So there's absolutely no problem to talk about it. So you can play king f8. Now, truth to tell, white has some, ideas. Maybe he plays this. Now, setting up that because he'll be able to take with the pawn. Once the black knight moves away, then you get the c file. Yeah, I can't say that this is going to be an easy draw, if anything but. No, you can try this. Thinking of rook d2 knight e4. I mean, it's worse, but alright. You just have to deal with it. You can't deal with it, it has to lash out. Now, that gives up the b5 pawn. Your king's far away. Now, this is counter-attack against the white king. Hey, buddy, there are no queens on the board. There are hardly any pieces to do any harm to the white king. So, of course, Linchevsky took. Now this. Played a great move, knight c3. I don't know who Linchevsky is, 2557, but he certainly plays like a Russian schoolboy. You got passed pawns over there away from the king, trade pieces. And he did. He stopped being a Russian schoolboy right here. It's not the number of pawns, paraphrasing, it's how you use them, right? Black pawns very far away from the white king. This g3, do I really have to win it back, take it? Time is more important. Absolutely, time is more important here. You gotta push your pawns before the black king gets in the square of them. You wanna paralyze the opponent's rook with your pawns. Is it really so hard, eh? Rook b3. I mean, just count. King f8, b5, king e7, b6, king d7, b7, late. Do you need to calculate anything else? No. If he is forced to play rook b5 here, you gain this fat tempo on a4. You can always take this thing. Who cares? The white is winning here. There's just nothing to talk about. Okay, you tell me time trouble. I'm sick of this excuse. Seriously. Alexander Alekhin, he said, you bring this as an excuse. It's like a criminal saying, but your honor, I was drunk when I did that, I didn't. So, it's no excuse. Rook b3. Yeah, he went rook c8 check. Maybe he was in a hurry to make the time control. Made it 40 moves. I don't know what the time control was, but... Now, it's a very tough endgame for black. Now, once again... When the pawns... Okay, maybe it's too early to talk about this. Let's just see what he played. He played rook b5. Wanted to slow the pawns down. Alternatively, he could have tried this. a4. Yeah, very similar. White should probably abandon the g3 pawn and just throw these pawns forward. So I think maybe king u4. Okay, that would be similar position. So let's see. I mean, I have more analysis, but okay, this was okay. He actually gained the tempo, right? Now he's threatening the square, so Linchevsky had to go rook a8. But he activated the king, and now off we go. Let's race. Now, of course, had it been the king and pawn endgame with no rooks, well, h5, no question about it. But now you have to back it up with calculation, because when you send your h-pawn forward, as actually it happened in the game, and it doesn't queen, the white is pushing 2 pawns, so you can't stop it equally effective. You cannot stop 2. So if you don't get your other pawns, the f7 and e6 involved, then you're just gonna lose. Here's what happened in the game. Now, move 44. So is it time trouble again? Did they give them any extra time after move 40? Or they just plain old bad endgame players and can't stop and think? What is this? H3? How hard is to see rook H8? And now what? I mean, it's just totally hopeless here. His king is on G7, not participating. These pawns are what? 3 steps behind these guys, and there's no use for the H3 pawn. That didn't slow white down by much. Maybe he was counting on this and missed that one. White is gonna get a full new queen. I mean, this is atrocious. Okay, no matter what, but you just can't play like this. And it's not the first time it happened to Sanan Sugirov. I don't know where it is. He resigned after King A5. Okay, I'm gonna go back. Let me try to salvage this wreck. I mean, you gotta use your king. That shuffling from G7 to H8. No, right, maybe. Maybe he was thinking of this, that he would go King G7. Then white has to get the rook out to stop this pawn. Because once the H pawn is stopped, then the white pawns cannot be stopped. Notice that the connected passed pawns. Why are they so good? Because, not necessarily because they go side by side. Even one pawn can go forward, like it happened in the game. Simply the king is safe from these checks. The B pawn helps. Alright. I could do this, right? If we trade, you're faster. But I queen too, and thankfully the pawn blocks the diagonal, so you don't get to take my queen. Unfortunately, there's rook c8, so hardly anything changes. It's still probably lost. Yep. Okay, now to the real thing, what's this h5? You gotta use your king, and if anything, you should try to move your f pawn. Or your e pawn. By the way, that white king stands very well over there. Let me start with this check. I want to force this king in front of his pawn, so that slow him down. Check. No, here I'll play this. I'm not behind at all. As a matter of fact, I'm nicely controlling f8. And I'm not letting the white rook to come that easily and stop the f pawn. If he goes back king d4 in this position. Okay, I have some analysis here. Oh yeah, then I get this tempo. More checks. Drive him away. Drive him away, come on. White is not even better here. I don't know, it just blows my mind. I cannot understand why a grandmaster of this strength, would start mindlessly pushing the h-pawn forward without backing it up with any calculation. Well deserved loss, Mr. Sugirov. Okay. Well, pretty much, yeah. That's what happened. I noticed that a lot of these guys who now in their 30s, Maybe they felt they were in the shadow of... But in the shadow of who? I mean, younger players, не помнящие. No, also, his problems is a different subject. But I mean, even before that, Nepomniachtchi was a kid, you know, when guys like Kabali and Sugirov and some others. I mean, something just, they just, I don't know, reached their ceiling, how to put it. I don't see a better way of putting it. Maybe, no, it's hard to blame them. You know, I could talk about myself. Why is that I only got where I got, and with many struggles at that, but maybe it's character issue. I don't know. Not enough. I'll show you. Oh, and I was gonna tell you, this guys, but Sugirov, no, is not among them. I haven't heard of them coaching anybody. They go into this coaching thing so early in life. I don't know. I know people like this in the United States. They teach full time. They're in their 20s. They teach full time. Why do you teach? They wouldn't make me become a teacher, you know, in my 20s, you know. I wouldn't do this for $1 million. I mean, it's just boring, you know, to sit there in front of your computers and just talk on Skype and try, you know, to keep your students awake. Some random Indian and Chinese kids, Indian American and Chinese American kids. And they just do it every day, like, what for? Became coaches. There's another coach. Okay, I will show you. This game. Ryazantsev. This guy, they said he was coach of Anatoly Karpov. I mean, he's like, what, 1/3 of Karpov's age? Alright, you know, well, you need some slave labor there to operate computers and all that, but, I mean, Ryazantsev probably was barely in his 20s. He started working for Karpov. I don't know, I wouldn't do this, you know, when I was his age. Would I do this now? Okay, now Karpov doesn't need anybody. I don't know, maybe I would, but I mean, I cannot do anything else. I think you only become a teacher when you cannot do anything else. I want to ask you guys, what do you think of a person who, like, I don't know, just goes to school for like 6 or 7 years, or something really complicated, like, I don't know, like aerospace engineering, and then all that person seeks is a teaching position at some university? I don't care, you know, what you studied, nuclear physics, whatever, or chess. I mean, you're simply not mature enough to teach anybody. You're professor at what, at 27? Just insane. My opinion, once again. But I would like to hear what you have to say to this. Alright, now, the experienced coach Ryazantsev goes against Shariazdanov. Shariazdanov, I'm not really familiar with him. He's 25-35. And there are a lot of guys over there who actually way lower rated now. They're almost rated as low as I am. But they play a lot of opens and really low level opens. And they simply quit worrying about their rating. But simply because there are no invitational tournaments for them anyhow. In a way, you know, chess in Russia now reminds me of chess in the United States. There's just a bunch of open tournaments and you can travel from one to another. Maybe they're not as lucrative. They need to make a living from chess. No, first you try to make a living from chess by doing a Nakamura. Alright, I know not everybody is going to be as successful as Nakamura, but everybody has to try. I haven't quit trying until I was already over 40 years old. Yeah, 40, 41. Well, you might say that I quit when I was 41. Okay. Now, so this guy Shariazdanov, he's probably not really that much weaker than his opponents. He's just lower rated. Ryazantsev, okay, let me figure out what. He's 26-58. And there is a lot of guys who kind of like still, no, well, pay attention to their rating, but they're going nowhere with their game, and Ryazantsev is another one of them. So I know it's hard to elevate your game now when you're in your late 20s or whatever. I don't even know exactly how old Ryazantsev is. Probably 30 years old or so. But I mean, in the past, some people were able to do this. These guys. Okay, so he arrives in this unpleasant rook endgame. And he's a former coach of Anatoly Karpov. So what do? You look at all this, white has pawns in the middle that nicely shield the king, and he's got play on both sides of the board. The rook obviously can go to c5, and then you have the Rubinstein kind of things. The principle of two weaknesses going back and forth. You got all the makings of a very bad rook endgame. Kamer Ryazantsev, you have to act fast. Move 31. King e7. King d8. King c7. Oh, classic squeeze. g4. It's total passivity, right? I mean, white is in a hurry to play d5 or e5, but he's keeping his options open. Yeah, he was 2700 not long ago. Oh, okay. Even better for him. But as I said earlier, 2700, even 2700 doesn't mean a whole lot these days. You can get to 2700, then you can drop out. Because there is really no... 27 is not the kind of rating that will get you to a level and you can stay on that level. Doesn't indicate anything. It indicates, that you were in good form and you did well in some open tournaments. And next year you're not going to do well. That's all it indicates to me. You gotta go a little higher now for me to believe, that this player kind of separated himself from the also runs. Would that be 27-30? Maybe. But, alright. Anyway, this is bad. I want to go back to the beginning of this whole thing. There is never going to be another chance. White is going to put that rook on c5. That's going to be it. Play g5 for crying out loud. Well, that's the only thing you can do. That's the only weakness, in white's position. And once you get active, you hit some targets, you may be down a pawn, you'll save probably majority of rook endgames. And I'm looking at this. No, well, if white goes back, no, okay, then he's not going to be able to really squeeze you. Then we see it there, it's a different situation. That rook is tied up to the h-pawn. You say you can win a pawn like this. I'm actually not sure you can. Let me play this one. Why is that white is going to win a pawn? I'm on the g3 pawn. You move the king over, I'm on the d pawn. I refuse to lose a pawn. And I'm playing actively. I'm playing how you're supposed to play rook endgames. Wasn't a 7 pawn up for grabs? At what moment? Okay, let's go back. How do I lose the a7 pawn? Oh, you mean you want to do rook c5? Oh yeah, rook c5. Okay, fine, I analyzed that. You're right. Of course he's gonna go rook c5. And I do this. But it's the same thing. Look, you go for the a-pawn. I got targets. Your king cannot protect both g and d. They're too far apart. And I'm gonna hit either one or another. I mean, white is somewhat better, but I mean, any player should take this over the sitting there passively when you cannot move anything. Before the g5 line, g5 is the first move that I recommended in this position. No, in the game continuation. No, he actually avoided. Look, he played king d8, not king d7. He's reserving d7 for the rook. Well, I gotta give him credit for that, but I mean, it's very small. No, team pure, he didn't blunder. But maybe it would have been better if he blundered. Since the times of Rubinstein, we know that the worst thing you can do in a rook endgame is just to go passive. You go passive, you grow this, you let those seeds of defeat to grow, and they grow very fast. Look at this. Another cardinal sin. Yeah, I know. Things look real bad. Maybe it's lost completely. But as long as you have that rook on the board, maybe there is a kicking chance. I don't know really how to do this, but okay, fine. I can try to move my king up. I don't know. Maybe I play king b6, and on this I play that, and you probably do this and rook g6. I was trying to grab the pawn with my king. It's very slow. But anyway, like guys, whatever I do, I mean, not the king and pawn endgame, unless he misevaluated it. But Shari-Zdanov didn't have any problems evaluating this correctly. White is winning. There was one line. He went king c7. Now, why do you go first king c7 and then king b6? No, right, the race he would lose. King b6, there. Because of this. He simply has to return to the d pawn. When he returns to the d pawn, White gets through. But actually, in this position, you know what? Maybe it's not so simple. Maybe he can play e5. Now, I will explain this. We'll go to a different line, but I think it was lost anyway. First of all, I'm trying to understand why he would play first king c7 and then king b6. Once again, king c7 was move 40. Low on time again. Oh boy. Alright, the main line of this whole thing, Let me play the main line of this thing. Starts with king d6. Forget about this. Start with king d6. Okay, now king g4, it's just a more accurate way, but probably king f4 is also winning. It's not really about top position or any of these things. White, for good measure, can push that pawn forward, because further up the board they are, better you are in the pawn race. You're going to be queening sooner, because your pawn is already up there, and the opponent is going to have to take more time on his own queening, once the kings start moving opposite directions. Alright. So now, how is this going to be won? About this way. And a6. Okay, what now? If here he just goes forward. So this is the thing. Now the d pawn will give itself, and I will grab the f7 pawn. Now, what is going to make big difference here is actually the position of the a pawns. Because once you push me that way and I have to play h6 and then I get out, believe me or not, this is winning, because I'm going to take this pawn just in time and step out king b7 and queen. By the time, you do all this. But if the pawns were on a4 versus a5, I know that because it happened in my games. Sorry, throat. Therefore, black probably had to play a5 a little early. Okay, so that's one thing. I have to go back. When Oh yeah, so let's look at a5. On move, 41. Oh yeah, right here, a5. Here is the line that I thought would do the trick. Now, white gets with the king to f5. You play this. Once again, this is going to happen. And I will mention again that king takes f7, king takes f5 is a draw. Because when you get out of there, he positions his king in front of the h-pawn, you have to run to the other side, and then you will see that in the end you're going to play this move king b6, he's going to answer with king c8. But the win is there, and it's a pretty one. Abandon the e5 pawn and do this. That's something. Now, black loses because he has his pawn on f7. You do this. Very unfortunate, but you cannot play king f7, and therefore the white h-pawn will simply queen. Like this. There is another line where you try to push your f-pawn forward, namely with this move. Then of course he plays king g6, and as it had to happen every time when I was black in such positions, his pawn will queen with check. His pawn queens with check. So maybe, perhaps, maybe he was calculating that. Okay, maybe I was too harsh. Maybe he figured, okay, let me allow this king and pawn endgame. Even if I don't have time to figure it all out, I think I'm gonna lose the rook endgame anyway. Yeah, now you are, because you didn't play it correctly from the beginning. King b6. That's what happened in the game. a5. Critical move. I think he resigned here. Yep. Know what to do. If you play a6, now this is lost. So you will block him over there, but he has the spare move, and now calculate as much as you want. In the end, king b7 will be played quicker than black can play king c8. So crossing this midfield, imaginary line, the line of demarcation, the line of scrimmage, whatever you call it, is essentially important. Then you win the game. No, you get a headache calculating this over the board. With practice, probably not. No, well, yeah, it's little unnerving, but I mean, it doesn't really branch out, right? So, I mean, you follow it, and there's no branching out, and it's a question of visualizing those positions. Well, with practice, I mean, these guys, they shouldn't have any problems calculating. Sherry Zdanov apparently didn't. So, well, anyway. Yeah. So I showed you one example of a uber-talented Fedoseev kind of freaking out early in the tournament and losing unnecessary. And then a couple of games that, to me, explain very well why these guys, Sugirov and Ryazantsev, never really... I don't know if they never crossed into the 2700 area, but at least they were not able to entrench themselves there, despite a certain local success. And yeah, Fedoseev struggles, I'll just show you this briefly, that he managed to get back into the tournament. He played extremely well, showed his great talent, and... No, but it wasn't his tournament. It somewhat affected him because, as I said, now in his debut for the Russian team, although it's a training, kind of friendly match with China. He first his first 2 games. He lost his first 2 games. So hopefully he can recover and finish on a better note. I'm talking about Fedoseev. So that's another game, as he was climbing up and getting back into this contention. Because the way it goes in tournaments like this, people who sit there in first place, and most of them, they will play draws with each other. Because they don't want to lose this position. And playing for a win is too risky. It takes an exceptional player to disregard this kind of stuff. Exceptional player, I don't know. It just have to be somebody like Morozevich and Ivanchuk. Maybe Nepomniachtchi when he could. Now I don't know what's going to happen with him. Most of the guys, well, anyway, so I'm looking how young players, how they deal with this. And I noticed that Artemiev and Dubov, they really played, and Bukavshin in particular. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. I'm going to make separate videos on these guys. Now, this is Fedoseev's chance. It's a big chance. Look, in the end, this guy Matelov managed to finish ahead of him and qualify. And that's because of this game. Look, White is, somewhat better, right? Shouldn't be any risk of losing this. Now, this was nice. Attacks C6 and causes problems. And Matelov, being an experienced player, he took a tough decision to give up a pawn or 2 on his queen side. Obviously, he saw that the white king side is somewhat compromised and made absolutely right decision. But nonetheless, capture, rook b7, f4. Okay, no problems with queen d3 that had to be played. But then this. I analyzed this position. Black has compensation for a pawn. Maybe it came as a surprise to Fedoseev, but I don't believe so. I think he's really a very, very talented player and he understands chess very well. It wasn't a problem of him being ignorant about the danger to his king. He just needed a win, and as a young player, he simply doesn't know yet how to deal with this situation. How to balance between your desire and your need to win with solid play and avoiding unnecessary losses. Well, you get the impression modern chess players focus more on pushing buttons chess boys. Yeah, the top players, they did their button pushing, I guess. But it's almost, in a way, it's kind of unfair, because you really have to go through so much of this button pushing that it fries your brain, and then unless you kind of especially, I don't know, it's gifted, it's a special gift, yeah, probably, and you're able to somehow study opening theory and yet remain chess player. For most guys, it's either or. Well, they study and they know something, they remember something, but their game is full of holes. And obviously, on a higher level, they simply cannot compete, because the top guys, they would not let them get away with obvious mistakes. Now, that's what Fedoseev needs to figure out. I'm sure he's in a tough situation now, because he has a rating to protect and he needs to study, and yet, hit this rough spot and now on a losing streak. I don't know what to do here. I guess. I mean, white can play some kind of a random move like a4. It's probably not the greatest move. The reason I don't want to play this, because I want to be able to take with the queen, and I have absolutely no desire to weaken my pawns in the third rank, because now I have no advantage whatsoever in the rook endgame. So not b4, I don't like b4. a4 could be fine, with planning to take with the queen, of course, if he takes. Rook a7, it allows queen b8. That's the problem. We're losing b2, and probably not the right way to do it. The queen is going to be very active on b2. Yeah, if white has an advantage here, it's very difficult to prove. Computers, no, well, they cheer white on for a while, but they can't really come up with anything constructive. There it comes. Queen f3. No, now it takes the queen f6. Alright, maybe queen f3 wasn't so bad. No, well, you're gonna have to bring this rook to defend pawn on f2. I guess this. Maybe it didn't feel like he had a lot of winning chances. Indeed. What's to say pawn in the middle game? I mean, the black rook can get behind it. Even if white can protect the king, how does he proceed from here? Alright, maybe so. Maybe the game should be drawn with perfect play. But it shouldn't be lost with what he did. Once again, it happened before. Well, Bobby Fischer, famous book by Edmar Madness, how to beat Bobby Fischer. Large percentage of games Madness classified as Fischer's stubborn desire to win at all cost. Overpressing? Choose your own word. Maybe it's mark of genius. Maybe Fedoseev is the next big thing. Maybe it's just growing pains. Rook e4. Well, it should be able to play f3 and reply to that. For example, I play a random move. I'll let him come here. I'll play this. If he takes, you know, it's okay now, because this rook is now maybe a little clumsy over there, right? Yeah, I can do that. I can do that. I can even play this. I'm threatening to come rook s7. Yeah, but maybe no advantage. But king f1 is just horrible, because now he could not play this move because of rook e3. You don't have the f1 square to protect the pawn. Overpressing, clearly. Now he's worse. He didn't do enough damage over there, and his king is weaker. Matalyov is a good player, and he played extremely well. From this point on, I will just show you some critical moments here. Played extremely well. Just keeps control and builds up. Most importantly, he figured out this rook endgame. Now, this is a great move. Not to g6, giving him a chance to capture. It's all calculated now. Watch this. Taking h6, and you need to take what? All the pawns. But if you could take c6 and d5, but you can't. By that time the pawn will be to a3 and rook b2 and then a2. So takes, he goes here. There is the time to grab the h pawn, but it's not important. There's no time to grab the d pawn. You do this, you tied up for good, and now he's just gonna bring his king over. First over here, and then this way, and then that way. Something similar happened to the game. Excellent technique by Matalyov. It doesn't even matter if the c6 pawn was there. Now the white king is caught in no man's land here, because you try to approach, then the move a2 just kills you, because you're not in time to return to g2. The skewer is inevitable. So after the move rook check, he resigned, because hanging around g2 f2 pointless. This is coming. Critical game of the tournament, played in round 5. Second lost for Fedoseev in this tournament, and put Matalyov into the leading group. Now, I read some reports from the tournament as was going along. Once again, that's the Russian qualifier for the championship, national championship, they call it the higher league. Seemingly, like, it wasn't really exciting in the last few rounds. People were protecting their positions. Anyway, so that's the story, and thank you guys for being here with me. I need to make a few videos of Russian Schoolboy series featuring the better games, the games of the winners. Once again, winner's circle there. Artemiev, watch out for this guy, very young. That guy in top left. Dubov, we've heard more of Dubov, but he was very young, and I know the book of on Dubov is that he got destroyed by Shirov in the match. But come on, that's Shirov, and Dubov was a little too young, you know. I think Dubov can still do things. Khairulin there in the bottom left. Well, okay, he's not a youngster, but Bukavshin there in the middle, he's an interesting player. Anyway, guys, thank you for your attention. Let me go back to work, crank out more Russian Schoolboy videos for you, and thank you for being with me, and I'll see you again the live show. Haven't been scheduled yet, either first or second week in August. Thank you. All right, bye.